Hello, people. Welcome to another comments video. I know normally I do this at the end of the podcast, but I've been a little bit behind with the comments, so that's why I'm doing like these individual comments responding episodes every now and then. But this should get me caught up, so make sure you guys hit the like button, and I'm going to respond to some comments. Yeah. So, Gaz said on the Nightwalk vlog, episode 31, don't mistake my happiness for complacency. Yeah, I found your song Neat on SoundCloud, and that was part of my fondest memories while reuniting with Taiwan a few months ago, going to their Carrefour Walmart with that playing at odd hours and riding bikes around. Already nostalgia looking back a few months ago. Personally, if I made a song like Neat, I feel like my work on earth is almost done. It is great to have songs that could be considered a classic, at least within the realm of like underground meme rap. I think that I've worked with a lot of local artists, and I do believe like I'm one of the few guys in my area that I've worked with, and I've probably worked with, I don't know, man, like at least like 50, 60 something odd rappers in my area, and I feel like I'm the only one that ever put out songs that really made any sort of a splash in terms of people really like listening to it, downloading it, and it becoming like a staple within something that they actually listen to. So I always appreciate comments like that. So next we have T Dot's Finest 97 on the Robot Music Volume 9002 podcast. It's pretty old. Yo, Chad, you really inspired me to really maybe start streaming video games, but the problem is I don't know what my main channel could be about. I want to have a gaming channel. I make beats, so I want a channel with just my beats as well. So I'm kind of confused if I have too many channels covering too many topics at once. I don't know what my main channel could be about. I'm really inspired to do a podcast as well, but I don't know what the fuck I'll be talking about, and I don't want to jack your style, just overthinking and overly confused. I think really one of my problems is that I don't really have my stuff properly separated. I got the gaming channel, and then I have the main channel that has, like, really I probably need about 3 channels. I think I need the gaming channel, I need a music channel, and I need a channel for the podcast, Nightwalk vlogs, random stuff, etc. But it's just that I don't want to divide my fan base up so much at this point. I think, when I hit about 5,000, 10,000 subs, maybe then I'll finally do like the split. But I would try to keep it. Now, I'm no YouTube expert, but I'm just saying, like, me personally, based on what I do, I probably try to have about 3. But I think it's really important to keep, like, for me, the gaming channel and everything else separate, because I think that it would be easy for like the gaming stuff to just flood the channel, because I can just play video games and have like 20 episodes of a like Saga Frontier 2 Adventures or something like that. Like, they'll just clog up the main channel. So it's good to have stuff like that off to the side where it belongs. So I would say maybe think about going into it with like 3 separate channels, something about around there, and just see how that works out for you. But I think in terms of the style of podcast that I have, I wouldn't care if somebody took inspiration from that, because really, quite frankly, I think there are a couple guys that I took inspiration from for what I'm doing now. I forgot the name of the guy's channel, but there was a guy who had like a little podcast that was, I wouldn't say like very similar to my own, but I think it also kind of had a similar vibe in terms of like, I could see it being something that would fit into like a Wizard Chan community or a R9K community. But I think my particular niche and lane, I think there's plenty of space. I think there's plenty of space left in it, because generally speaking, I think most people get on the internet trying to be the coolest guy on the block that has the most bitches and things like that. I think guys like myself who don't really play that game and just, will be authentic from the good, the bad, and the ugly, I think that's rare. And especially catering to my particular crowd, I think there's still room for content like that. So T Dot said on the Chad Marco social distance song, "What drum kicks do you use, my nig?" I should put out more was it the process videos. I'm planning on doing that very soon. It's just that it's there's an endless amount of things that I'm trying to do at once, and it's still kind of a challenge for me to put everything together so that I can have a certain consistency with everything from the music to the gaming channel to the general social media and all that. But I'm bringing the process back very soon, and I'll give you guys more tips on my beat making. So Cool Name says on why being a single virgin. He says on the Nightwalk vlog, episode 24, why being a single virgin doesn't stop my happiness. Seeing a positive spin on something like this from someone I can actually relate to is fucking wow, to be honest. It's really refreshing to see someone who went through a similar situation to me, and a lot of online guys are coming out of it genuinely happy and content with themselves. I'm still working on getting to where you're at mentally, but hopefully I'll get to be where you're at sometime myself. And I had a friend that came over today, and we were kind of talking about the state of my virginity, and I was just basically telling him that the weirdest thing about it is when you really stop caring, because I remember when I was around like 18, 19, etc., then it was still kind of there was a little bit of a fear about the decision or the thoughts I was having regarding like going my own way and just embracing being single, because you do hear those voices that say, oh, you'll regret it and you'll die alone and things like that. And so there is a certain fear about it. And I just said, fuck it, I'm just gonna live my life the way that I want to. And it's funny now at 31 when I look back at it and how I feel. It's the craziest part, I'm telling you, is when you really stop giving a fuck. When you really, really don't care. And it's just like, I guess it kind of makes you feel like an alien of sorts, because most people either can't relate to that or don't understand that feeling of really just being okay with, being perpetually single, as I like to say. Not to say like I wouldn't like to have those experiences, but man, it's really just like, damn. And I think when I see girls now, and I'm gonna do a video about this because I think this sums up my point very well. I definitely still have traces of approach anxiety and things like that. And I think that a lot of people might say, well, oh, you're just scared to talk to girls. And I'm not going to like deny that fear isn't there. It definitely is. But I do believe that it's a fear that I could easily overcome if I really wanted it bad enough. And I think the craziest realization for me is just that I just don't want it bad enough at this point to put in any sort of work to get bitches. So Doofy said on the Life is Neat song, what's your thoughts on Shua B listening to your song? I probably have talked about this 100 times. It's cool. It's cool to me when anybody likes my song enough to favorite it. But obviously Shua B committed suicide. I think one thing that crosses my mind is, should I feel guilty? And obviously not, but I guess that's one thing that does sort of float around, because the thing is like, during that time, I was making a particular kind of music that would attract a certain type of person. and could easily attract people that were going through depression and suicidal thoughts and living life a certain way. So I don't feel like responsible for it, because I think he would have done what he did either way, regardless of my song. But I think it was one of those things where it kind of shows the real ugly reality of the situations that I spoke about or talked about in some of my earlier songs, and the state of mind that comes with that. And even though I'm a much happier person now, you know, I was in that place when I was like a teenager, and I was 18, 19, 20 and whatnot. And I was very depressed and I was suicidal. Like, I was there, but I just didn't succumb to the point where I had actually committed suicide. I overcame instead of succumbing. And for sure it was the opposite. But I guess the interesting thing about it was that, you know, a song like Life is Neat was expressed authentically because it came from, you know, in a way, that negative state of mind, that strange lifestyle of isolation and overindulgence and cheap pleasures and just everything that comes with that. Like there's an ugly reality to that song. I just happen to be the artist that made it. And not only did I make the song, but I made it out of that ugly reality. But because of the nature of the song, it attracts people who either won't make it, are still persisting, or like stuck in that rut, or have made it out like myself. So I guess to sum it up, I think that Life is Neat has a certain, like I said, ugly reality to it, where it's a song that's going to resonate with a certain type of crowd, and everybody in that crowd is not going to overcome the negativity that is definitely underlying within the vibrations of that particular track. So Ghostface says on the Nightwalk vlog, episode 28, Kanye loves Hitler. I love that one. In moments like war, people don't have the time to be empathetic and to get in the other side's shoes, because they see all the killing that is going on around them, and they see a bunch of people working as a unit to kill and exterminate them. So they assume all the people in the group are genuinely pure evil and want their extinction. Plus, that feeling gives them the power to fight back. It's kind of hard fighting your opponent after you humanize them so much. I can only imagine what it feels like to be on the front lines, to be on the battlefield like the soldiers fighting in the Ukraine at this moment. And I think I sort of think, because I think I was talking about Gundam. I think I was talking about, what was it, Gundam Seed, in that particular episode. And there's a scene in Gundam Seed where I forgot which side, but one side had basically gotten the advantage over the other, so bad to the point where they started surrendering. But the soldiers remembered that the same guys that were now surrendering showed no mercy to their fellow soldiers. And so even though the other soldiers, the enemy, were surrendering, they still killed them. It was a very brutal moment within that anime. But I think that it did a very great job of portraying the cycle of hate, the cycle of hatred and revenge and death that perpetuates within war. Because again, the violence and the death and the loss of life, the destruction, like you said, it's hard to try to humanize somebody when you've already lost. So like when you've already taken those losses on your side, you're gonna be like, fuck them no matter what. It's inevitable. So Gambo-san says on the OCM Botcast episode 35, We Can't Compete episode, this was the most depressing episode of the Botcast yet. It really made me feel horrible seeing all the immutable characteristics even 5 out of 10 Beckys require out of men these days that I lack and never will have. The thought of having to self-improve for years only to attract a 4 or 5 out of 10 Becky with the personality of a tree stump is genuinely so fucking depressing. Not to mention she might still probably leave you. The phrase "she's not yours, it's just your turn" rings true. All those years of self-improvement, or maybe a few months of happiness with a 5 out of 10, what a life. At least you ended it on a positive note. And then Michael Smith says underneath that, I wonder how soon we'll have government programs like Japan and South Korea to raise back the pregnancy rate from us guys dropping out of the dating game. Let me touch Michael Smith first, right on the forehead. You know, I think it's not gonna be what you think. I think that basically, I think the plan is to simply use mass immigration to make up for the lack of reproducing on the side of the natives of these particular countries that have that are not reproducing at a rate of proper replacement. Because you got to think, these people coming over from different countries like Mexico and Africa and whatnot, like they don't, and India, they don't think the way that a lot of like first worlders do, in terms of like being conservative, in terms of how you reproduce and things like that. Like whether like rich or poor, they're going to be having like 5 or 10 kids and things like that. So I believe that the idea is really just like, fuck you guys. Like, fuck you MGTOW guys. Fuck the red pill guys. Fuck the child-free community. We're just going to import a bunch of, either legally or illegally, we're just going to import a bunch of immigrants and they're going to do the reproducing for you. Essentially, it's going to be a replacement program, as opposed to trying to do something where you get the native population to increase the rate of reproduction. But going back to Gambo-san, yeah, I remember when I was doing the episode, I felt touched. I felt touched. You know, as MGTOW as I am, I think the aspects of it that did bother me was seeing the things that I could have done to raise my value as a man. You know, I think that's the main part that kind of bothered me. It wasn't so much the traits like height and penis size. Like, I think I've already come to terms with the areas in which I'll be considered genetically inferior. But really, for me, more so, it was seeing the things that I could have done but didn't. But it's kind of like I said during that episode, you know, part of the reason why I lived my life the way that I have is because I wasn't thinking about trying to impress or do things particularly for the sake of women. So I can't really complain. You know, I think if I had my mind set towards let me be what I need to be in order to get bitches, then I would just make those changes accordingly. But my whole life, I've only done what I felt necessary to do what I wanted to do in regards to my own personal goals and aims. And that never had anything to do with dating or having sex. So even though I felt a little touched by it, you know, I still understood that, you know, I chose the path that I chose. And I can't really feel bad about not being something that I didn't really set myself up to be in the first place. I was never trying to be a guy that girls would like, you know? So 530, 53, 0, no, 5, hold up. This is 530 RJ. Okay. On the How I Became a 30-Year-Old Virgin video. Hey man, I saw you from the Melly video and just wanted to say that you're not alone in this situation. I know, I'm 28, almost 29 male virgin, and like you, I had opportunities in the past with bigger girls, but wasn't desperate, so I refused their advances. If it happens, it happens. Who gives a fuck what society thinks? Exactly how I feel. It's something about them big girls, bro. It's always the big it's always the big girls. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly my attitude. If it happens, it happens. And you know, I'm gonna do a video about approach anxiety soon. But I was thinking about, you know, like why is it that I'm so unwilling to really like put myself out there and like just start chasing after bitches? And I think a big part of it for me is just that overall it just doesn't seem worth it. At this point, it's cliche to say, oh, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. But, you know, it really seems that way when you look at the fact that even if you do decide, I'm going to put myself out there and start talking to girls, like, you know, things like having to deal with, like, God knows how many rejections, like, is an inevitability. Then you got to worry about things like compatibility. What type of lifestyle does she live? Does she have any baggage? Does she have any kids? Does she have any debt? Are you guys gonna get along? What are gonna be her expectations for the date? Does she have an STD? Is she toxic? And you know, on one hand, I think that the problem with that line of thinking is that, you know, you end up sort of talking or thinking yourself out of even trying because you're just too aware or just thinking too much about how every step of the way could go wrong or not in your favor. But a lot of it really truly is just the reality of modern dating. And I think that's why I've taken the same position as you as far as like, if it happens, it happens. But I'm not going to stress myself out about this shit because I just feel like you would go crazy. You would go crazy if your life depended on finding the right girl who is going to be an overall benefit to your situation and your lifestyle. There's no way I'm putting my faith in that shit. So Nathan Nate 7264 says on the Why Jordan Peterson Dislikes the Manosphere video, problem with individuals like this is they focus only on the individuals who are clearly negative grifters and hijack the terms like manosphere. They don't acknowledge the reasons behind why an increasing amount of decent everyday guys are choosing not to date or approach, like how mainstream sometimes ignores half of reality or the facts on a story and simply focuses on one side. You know, there's a YouTuber named O'Shea Duke Jackson. I guess you can just consider him like within the manosphere, red pill adjacent type guy. But he made a great video talking about, it wasn't like titled Men Going Their Own Way, but it was talking about, you know, sort of men embracing being single and just dropping out of dating. And I went to the comment section, and then just when you see all these guys, like just an endless stream of men confirming what the video was talking about. Like, I'm disregarding women. I'm not worried about dating. Fuck that shit. I'm happier than ever. I have peace of mind. I'm making money. My life is together. Like, just like, you gotta find that video and look through those comments. Like, but the point is, I think a lot of people look at the red pill community from a particular angle. They look at the surface. They see sound bites. They don't really dig deep enough to see the positive effect that it's having on some guys and it might sound crazy, because I think really it's depressing and sad that it's come to this. But when you see the fact that there are men out there who make a conscious decision to drop out of dating and their mental health improves because of it, they're happier because of it. There's less stress, there's less drama, there's less problems, there's more happiness, there's more peace. It's not supposed to be that way, but that's what it is. That's the situation that we find ourselves in. But again, you're only going to see that if you dig under the surface, beyond the sound bites, the YouTube shorts and clips that'll just make, you know, the red pill look like a bunch of misogynists and weirdos and shit like that. But because I've always been interested in the red pill and manosphere, I always, you know, I'm underneath the surface. I'm in the underground, so I see shit like that. I see people who have benefited from adjusting their mentality in regards to how they deal with women. And it's not even always completely dropping out. Sometimes it's just, you know, setting up boundaries when you do deal with women. You know, saying I'm not going to tolerate disrespect from a woman. I'm not going to date a certain type of woman. I'm going to heed the red flags. So, you know, again, I think that a lot of it comes down to, you know, just not really looking deeply enough into the community and seeing how it's helped men, and really just having an eye specifically trained to see the things that you don't like about it. So RNAR00919, what? On the same video, I'm going to call him On. No, I don't like that. I'm going to call him Honor 9. What should I call this guy? I can't say this every time. I'm gonna call him Honor. Oh my God. I'm gonna call him On. On the same video, he says JBP, a hella intelligent dude and correct about mad countless points arguments. Absolutely. But the state of Western females' femininity and sexual relations in 2023 is one area in which he is wrong as fuck completely. You can't cater to placate tyranny, and modern Western femininity essentially a force of sexual and social tyranny. And even the clip that I based the video on, his fans said the exact same things that you were saying. He's intelligent. He's right about so much shit, but he's just wrong. I mean, but it's just one of those things where everybody can't be right about everything, you know. Sometimes we just have certain biases based on our personal experience and things like that. Like, just for example, you guys know I'm a believer that when it comes to girls, size matters. Like, girls care about penis size, and a lot of that has to do with personal experiences and things that I've heard girls say in my life over time, you know. But maybe you could make an argument that I just had a specific set of experiences that had me believing or thinking in a certain way, right? And that's cool. that's perfectly fine. And I'm just saying that as an example of how sometimes we can just think or believe a certain way based on our personal experiences, and being a bit too attached to that and not venturing outside of our bubble or way of thinking. But sometimes it's even deeper than that. Sometimes it's just like there's a refusal to see the truth. There's a refusal to believe, because once you do, you know, you have to completely shift your arguments regarding something as important as relationships between men and women, something as important as marriage and reproduction. And so just imagine Jordan Peterson having to do a 180 and tell guys to go their own way and don't get married. And I just think he has too much of an attachment to what he believes in to see differently. So on the Who Should Pay for the First Date video, Zhang says, Chad, with the self-improvement journey you're on, when will you quit consuming cynical internet content entirely? All the bitterness and pornographic content is only there to atomize people. You're a smart dude who makes fresh, relatable music, but man, I can't take an opinion of women or what it means to be a man so heavily informed by image boards seriously. It's better to be out in the world and take people on a case-by-case basis than to generalize. You know, I can completely understand that. Obviously because of me being a virgin with very little with damn near no intimate experiences with women, I wouldn't blame anyone for taking anything I say with a grain of salt. But I think even in that same video, I said that don't listen to me because you ain't getting no pussy. And even going back to How to Be a NEET, I've never seen a vagina. You know, I said the same thing. I said that, I forgot exactly what I said, but I was just making it clear that I don't want to try to influence guys to be like me and to be eternal virgins and things like that. So I can completely understand not wanting to take advice on women from the virgin guy. But I'll say this. When I look at situations where I was observing other people's relationships, I was able to call the ups and downs, play by play, like tit for. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I tell this story all the time. But when my friend got into his most recent relationship, and he was telling me about the girl, again, I was just paying attention to the red flags and shit like that, and warning him about her, and he never listened, and he dug himself deeper and deeper into a toxic relationship that has basically almost drove him fucking crazy, you know. And so I'm like, look, I don't care if people disregard my wisdom regarding relationships and women because I'm a virgin. That's understandable. But I'll be damned. I'll be damned if I go back to the blue pill way of thinking. And I think when you're talking about generalizing and judging people on a case-by-case basis, I think I'll put it like this, right? When you get into a car, when you drive, you put on your seatbelt every single time. You don't look at it on a case-by-case basis. You say, and really think about it. As many times as you put on your seatbelt, how many times have you really needed it? Probably none. But the next time you get into that car, you're gonna put your seatbelt on. Why? Because the cost of putting the seatbelt on is nothing compared to the cost of getting in an accident when you don't have it on. And so I think one thing that a lot of guys don't get about adopting the red pill mentality, which does come with, you know, generalizing a bit, admittedly, is that it really more so works the same as a seatbelt, where it's like it's a strategy that protects you just in case something happens. And adopting the strategy comes at very little cost to yourself. And see, you got to always remember that I found my happiness and my joy and fulfillment completely outside of the realm of relationships and sex. So I don't need it to be happy. So I have no reason to expose myself to the risk of those things unnecessarily. So I can afford to generalize and set up a general game plan of how to deal with shit and look at things, because otherwise I'm opening myself up to harm unnecessarily. So just got to kind of understand my way of looking at it. But I think a lot of it just comes, it goes back to that video, the truth about going your own way. A lot of it just comes down to the fact that we don't want it bad enough. And when you don't want it bad enough, it's really okay to generalize and put up those barriers, because you're not really losing anything that you need anyway. It's basically just a seatbelt. So Kyle Adams 5,422 says on the So I Signed Up for the God damn, the girls I use in that thumbnail, man. Anyway, have you thought about doing gear at some point? Gear is like steroids, right? Or some type of like enhancement. I'm assuming it's like a male enhancement thing for muscles or something. I'm assuming here. Not really. I'm not in terms of like, if you're talking like again like something to make you buff quicker or the shit Ziz was taking. I don't know specifically what gear. I'm just assuming it's like some sort of steroid. Not really. I think the only thing I've ever considered is testosterone because from what I understand, as a man, your testosterone levels begin to drop slowly over time as you age. And so I was thinking that maybe at some point I would get on testosterone just to keep my levels balanced. But that's about it. I haven't really, as far as like steroids and shit like that, I just nah. Especially not when you see these people like dropping dead in their 40s and 50s and all the side effects. You know, I think that I can get big and fit enough for what I want without it. So I don't really consider things like that because I just feel that my natty potential is enough to keep me satisfied. I'm not trying to be the biggest guy at the gym. I'm not trying to go giga nigga. So Matrix Mediator says on the who should pay for the first date video, the first date shouldn't consist of anything that requires payment. A first date should consist of a short walk in the park to become acquainted with each other. If your girl can't handle that, she's not wife material. And then JBR Itchy or JB Richie 8 says, well said. And I agree. I think that the fact is a lot of women, they take advantage of men being expected to pay on the first date. And look, if that's how look, I'm not hating on it. But I just think the way I look at things now, the most important thing about a first date or a first couple dates should be getting to know the person. It shouldn't be about this ego trip of needing to feel like the man is investing and all that, because that's one thing if we lived in a traditional society. But just like I was breaking down in that video, these girls are not virgins. They're not virgins. They're not clinging to the traditional gender roles on their side. So why should we be expected to do the same? So the way I see it, look, let's put the gender role shit to the side. In fact, throw it out the window and let's just break it down to what's really important. Let's just try to get to know each other. Let's set up a date where we can have the time and the opportunity to fill each other out in a safe public environment. And just take it from there. But every guy is different. And some guys, they relish in the opportunity to flex their money and to woo a girl and to buy her this and to buy her that. Some guys just like that. And if that's your game, that's cool too. But for me, like when I make a video like that, I'm just really just thinking out loud. I'm just thinking like really why? Like what I'm not trying to make a statement to deter people from doing what the fuck they want to do. If a girl has the expectation that a guy should pay on the first date $500, cool, that's her game. If you're a guy and you want to pay that, cool, that's your. And if you're the opposite, I'm really just like, cool, do what you want, but don't try to tell me it's a rule when the logic behind it don't make sense. That's the whole point of the video. If the I was breaking down why the logic behind why a man should pay on the first date doesn't add up. So Kasir, the feller, says on the How I Became a 30-Year-Old Virgin video, you and I are very much alike. It's a confluence of things, and now it seems categorically impossible to get any pussy or any romance at 30. I'm old. I got traumatized. My brain is warped, and women seem very bad in terms of being partners. They do. I don't know. It's like this shit is unfixable. Like you, I couldn't distort or dilute myself for female validation. People insisting on that always seemed off-putting to me. And it's funny because I was having a similar conversation. Like I was having a conversation with my friend earlier, and he's been in a toxic relationship for years. And I was breaking down to him. Like what, like he, because I think the conversation was, when was the first time she disrespected him? And I told him what I would have done in that situation, which is basically check the bitch and let her know, if you disrespect me, we're not going to be in a relationship. And I remember I'm telling him this, and it's like he didn't act like I was saying the wrong thing, but his reaction was like, if you say that, you're not gonna keep the bitch. You're gonna lose her. And what that tells me is just, that's an example of how men just have this mentality of, how, like you said, they'll distort and dilute themselves for female validation, for pussy, for sex. I'll tolerate the disrespect because I'm trying to fuck. And that's really the core of why a lot of guys end up in toxic relationships. They want the sex so bad that they won't stand up for themselves. They'll tolerate disrespect from a woman when they would never tolerate disrespect from a nigga, basically. And I think that as we're having this conversation, the funny part was that, I admitted that, yeah, I know I'm not going to be able to keep a bitch doing that. And so the whole point, though, is that that's where, for me, that feeling of impossibility comes from. Because it's like, how many women, just think about every step that you got to go through, bruh. When you're talking about, first off, you want a girl that you're attracted to. She ain't got to be bad, but you don't want to fuck fat gorilla bitches. So you're already aiming for the 5s and the 6s and the 7s who already have an inflated ego based on their value in the dating market. So you got that to contend with. Then you're talking about having to approach them and chase them. You're gonna deal with some rejection. Then the actual dates, and you don't want to pay for the first date? Oh, that's gone. And what if she got STDs? You got to get tested, but she might not be trying to get tested because it's a fast life. It's a fast world. Who the fuck trying to do that? That's another thing that might get in your way. And then we find out she got a kid. Oh my God, she got 2 kids. I can't deal with this shit. And then red flag over here, red flag over there. And then you get that far. She disrespects you. You check her. She disrespects you again. Then you gotta bounce. You got to. And that's the feeling of impossibility, bro. And it's that, the crazy thing is that, when I look at like the incel community, that's an issue in the world in terms of like modern dating or lack thereof. But that's really the tip of the iceberg. Cause even like incels are just like, the problem is we can't get laid, we can't get relationships. But even when you get past that level, like that's when you really get into the deep shit. That's when you really get into the deep shit. Because if you really want to maintain who you are and stand up for yourself and have proper boundaries and make smart decisions and deal with the right type of woman, like there are just so many ways and reasons why the few options you do have won't work out. You'll find out she got a kid, or she's disrespectful, she got an STD. And that's where that feeling comes from, man. Like that feeling of it's impossible. It does feel impossible. It does feel like not in a sense like I couldn't just get pussy, like if I just didn't like I'll fuck whatever. Like that's possible. But I'm saying pussy in terms of a girl that I'm attracted to, doesn't have a lot of baggage, isn't going to disrespect me, isn't going to reject me from the outset. Like when you start adding up all the things that are necessary for a healthy, safe relationship, more and more and more and more women just don't really make the cut. And then you got to contend with your own lack of your own lack of value, my flaws, no job, live with mom, short, small dick. So it ain't just them. It's the things that I don't have that they want, my flaws. So it's a two-way street too. So that contributes to that feeling of it's not possible. Oh boy. So PlayStation Games All Day, I love that name, says on the Why Men Care About Body Count video, I see what you're saying, Marco, but why is the reverse untrue for men? A guy can sleep with multiple women, have her spit and fluids all over him, and it doesn't create the same disgust feeling for women. In fact, the opposite. A lot of women respect that guy and see him as higher value. So he was talking about one of the reasons that I gave for why men don't like women with high body counts, I gave the reason of, the disgust response of knowing that a girl has basically been, got them cheeks clapped, got them cheeks, was swallowing semen, licking cornhole, all the nasty stuff. And I think that's a good point. I can only guess or assume that for women, the necessity to feel as if other women like the guy that they're with is what makes any potential disgust response null and void. Because maybe they would feel that way, but it's also important for them to be with a guy that other girls like and a guy that has experience. So it's possible that it's just that, okay, they would feel that way if it wasn't for the fact that a guy being experienced and wanted is just so overwhelmingly attractive to them. And for us, it's not really like that. But I heard, now this is an interesting theory too, because I heard a girl say this one time on ADV, and this girl, she basically said, she was talking about why she wouldn't want to date a bisexual guy. And what she said kind of made sense. She said that when it comes to sex, having sex with a man is degrading, whether you're a woman or a man, but having sex with a woman is not. And when you look and think about it, when you look at it like this, as a man, you'll be more okay with your girl having had sexual experiences with women than men. And as a woman, you will be more okay with your girl, with your guy having had sexual experiences with women as opposed to men. So basically what she was saying was that having sex with men is uniquely disgusting. Now, obviously, in terms of like literal fluids, juices, like we share like a similar level of like disgustingness. But I do think that what she said made sense, is that for some reason, whether you're a man or a woman, having sex with men degrades you, and not saying that as an objective truth, but just that's how the perception is, right? Because guys don't like girls who are hoes with men, and girls don't like guys that fuck with men. Well, most anyway. So, but that's just my theory on that. So 3Zor96, that's a cool name. Why men care about body count? At what age would chicks nowadays start losing their virginity in the US? Just curious. On the video I just made not too long ago, is there something wrong with adult virgins? I believe that the study that I was reading, or the article that I was reading, and a study within it said that generally, I believe it said 16 to 18. I think 16 to 18 is the average. So, and that makes sense. That makes perfect sense because you got to think most people start dating and of course going through puberty and gaining an interest in sex, especially around like by high school. You know what sex is. You're having sexual desires. And just based on male female dynamics, women tend to be the ones that are going to be pursued. And so women are kind of in this position where they have dating options and hookup options available to them at a young age. And most of them are going to take advantage of this. And this is something that I always say. If you're looking at a teenager, whether it's a boy or a girl, if they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they're fucking. 9 times out of 10, they're fucking. So even though that article said like 16 to 18, I would put it between like 14 and 18 as far as like the average age. I would say 15, 18, 14, 18, somewhere around there. Because once you get to high school, especially as a girl, and you don't have to deal with having to live up to the high standards that men do, it's just there for you. Most of them are going to enjoy it. Most of them are not going to try to preserve their virginity for very long. So JBR Richie 8 says on the same video, nothing but facts in this video, Chad. Thanks for making it. I also wondered whether there was evidence supporting the body count and marriage success failure relationship. There absolutely is. Just look it up. Just look it up. In fact, I think I have the article bookmarked in my Firefox. I'm not sure. But look it up. Just type in exactly what you said. And I believe there are several articles that back up that claim. There is definitely what's the right word? Correlation between female body count and the likelihood of the success of a marriage. And to put it simply, the more promiscuous a woman is, the more likely her marriage is going to end in divorce. I've seen different theories on this. I see a lot of guys say that the more women hook up with different men, it basically kills their ability or hinders their ability to properly pair bond with the man. Now, this is just me assuming and theorizing here because I kind of like that kind of makes sense. I just believe that when a woman has had a lot of different partners and sexual experiences, it's probably more likely that she's going to get bored within the marriage or relationship with one guy. That's just my take on it. I just think that it's more likely that she's going to feel bored or dissatisfied, especially if she's been with significantly more attractive men. Like if she's been with a Chad or a Tyrone or a guy that's just really her type, but ends up marrying a guy who's more average, I think like that. To me, that's probably going to be a recipe for disaster, because I think at some point she's going to begin longing for the level of sexual experiences and excitement and intimacy that she once enjoyed. It's kind of like to me, I would say it's probably like it's probably like getting somebody into drugs with like crack and heroin, and then saying, okay, now you got to stop that and just smoke weed. Like it's that's how I would interpret it. That it's just to have to go from one extreme to a much lesser extreme in terms of like your sexual gratification, excitement in relationships, I think that's probably what causes it. And so, haha, what a story mark says on the marriage in the West is the antithesis of male authority video. I just can't get married. I could never bring myself to put myself at the mercy of the state, a woman who might wake up one morning and ruin my life. The stat I've heard is that women initiate 80% of divorces and college educated women initiate 90% of divorces. I've seen the same numbers, which is crazy to think about. The problem is that feminism and women getting jobs ruin the balance in marriage. The only benefit to a man getting married is basically getting social status and respect from other married men, which will eventually fade away as men realize there's no other benefit and marriage rates decline over the next 30 and 50 years. Yeah, I don't, obviously you guys know how I feel about it. But when I look at it in terms of like, where are we headed towards? Because this is obviously not sustainable. And it seems like more and more men are adopting this mentality or feeling as if marriage just simply isn't worth it. It's still kind of taboo to say that in certain circles and certain levels of like the entertainment industry. But it does seem to be a growing sentiment. But it's like, where do we go from here? Because it's kind of like what you said, where feminism and women getting jobs definitely had a negative effect on the balance in marriage. It made men less attractive, because a big part of what made the average man attractive was the fact that he could earn so much more than the average woman. And now that's gone. And so it's like, what do you really have to entice a woman to really feel enthralled about you, to really feel a strong attraction towards you? One YouTuber that I really like is an older guy named Aaron Clary, the asshole consultant. And he has a video, and definitely look up this video. And I believe the video is called "Women Just Don't Like You That Much." And he was talking about how, pretty much exactly what I just said, how most women just don't like most guys that much. Like, they don't hate you, but they just don't really like you because they don't need you. They can make their own money and they can support themselves and things like that. And that really killed a big part of what made us so attractive as men, was that women looked at a man as like, damn, he can do what I can't do. And feminism and them getting jobs closed that gap significantly. But I also say I'm not some guy that's like down with feminism, put the women back into the kitchen. That's not my belief or desire either. I look at it more like, how do we move forward from this? Like, is there a solution? Is there a way to sort of repair the relationship between modern men and modern women? I don't know. But I just don't think that, trying to undo feminism and put women back into the kitchen, I just don't think that's ever going to happen. I think now that the cat is out of the bag, it's running wild and it's pissing on all the furniture. So it's like, how do we deal with this? But I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and now we'll be returning later with more great content for you guys. So see you later.